guest reader today is Don McKinnon. He is a former Raynham selectman, and he also taught at Taunton High School.
I gotta find out how old I am now, because I have to be your age. Because I'm trying to give you some information on what life was like when I was your age. And I don't know what your age is. So,
9 and 8.
9?
8.
8 and 9? 8, 9, and 10. But it's not going to be easy for me, huh? 8, 9, and 10. So I'll tell you what, I was born in 1933. Yes, there was such a year, and that's a year I got a cold. I apologize to you and your family. And so 33 and 9, so I would be, if 33 would be 43. So what would, anybody know what that year happened that year? It says 1942, let's say. World War II, exactly. So I would be your age. I would sit out there if I were you, reverse, but I would be 9 years of age. And if I were 9 years of age and the war were going on in 1942, I will tell you this. In my day, you all know there was no what? What did we not have? Yeah, we had telephones. We did wave to people.
Computers.
We had no television. Does that make sense? Yes. No? Thought you were going to volunteer something. Yes. You have to.
You guys didn't have
Oh, no, definitely not computers. Now that's a given, no computers. So if we had, yes, did you have some?
Yeah. Yes. Because actually, my grandpa said he was
World War II?
Yeah. But
Is he still with us?
No, he died
A couple of years ago. He would have been in his 80s at the time, though, right?
Yeah, but now he's like 91 right now.
That's right. You're right. Yes.
My grandpa, he was in the Marines, and he went on those boats that would carry the army kids. And I don't know. And he even he would have the key to the boat on his keys.
So he was, did he steer the boat, or was he a passenger on the boat?
He was a passenger on the boat.
But he had a key. Yes. Yes.
My mom's friend's son is like 18 or 19 and he's going to the Marines.
When the question?
You guys didn't have like cars back then?
Yeah, we had cars, but we couldn't use them too much. So I'll get into that a little bit. No, when I say no television, there was television when I was born in 33. I think the first Olympics that had television would be 1936, and that would have been in Germany. And but people in the United States really didn't have the television set, so they can't turn the set on if you don't have a set. Yes. Yeah.
Refugees, did they still have those, like, those little things that come out of it, like when you have to...
The antennas?
Yeah, the
antennas.
Yeah.
No, it didn't have it. Didn't.
Yeah, it comes from the...
Yeah, no, it didn't have it. I'm gonna, but let me get into this a little bit more. Yes, question.
So
What time do we have to stop, by the way? I've got 3 in the afternoon. 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
about how old were you in like World War II?
World War II, I was your age. I was born in 33, and so you people are 9 and 10. So 33 is 43 for 10. So those of you who are 10, it would have been 1943. The war began on the date they give for people to try to figure it out was December 7, 1941. But see, December, you're practically into next year. So really, the war started in 1942, and I would have been your age when the war started. Now, the thing about the war, though, was there were things that happened during the war that didn't happen previous, so let me give you just a little bit about something which was called depression. The United States in 1929 went into a depression that was ongoing in through the 30s. And actually, when World War II started, we were still in that depression. Now, depression just meant there was a very high rate of people not employed. There was very little money to go around, and people didn't have much money. I'll give you, do you understand what sampling and how they take a survey on, like say, who the next president might be, how that works?
Yeah.
But in those days, they started that in the 30s. And there was a contest, and I'm just trying to bring you back to those days. The president at that time was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I think most of you at least heard that name. But his opponent, you may not have heard of, is Alf Landon. That's his name. He was a very popular person. And in the survey, it came out that Alf Landon in the 30s was going to beat Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the election. Now, the reason he was going to beat him was he was a member of a party, and this is where your surveys now are so sophisticated. He was a member of a party where most of them owned telephones. I'll get back into telephones. But what happened with Alf Landon when they ran the survey, they won it, they got the answer to their problem, who's going to be the next president, by calling up people on the phone and saying, who are you going to vote for? And most of the people that were going to vote on who owned a telephone were going to vote for Alf Landon. Alf Landon was a member of a party that were people that had some money. I'm just oversimplifying it. But Roosevelt was of the people type of thing. So Roosevelt won in a landslide. If you ever do a research paper on Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you'll see that he was probably one of the top 5 presidents in the history of the country, because he not only got us through depression, he also got us through World War II. He died before World War II ended, but nonetheless he was a very smart individual. So yeah, I'm going to get you back into this thing now. I'm going to say when I would go shopping, I would have a list. I'm assuming that most of you don't do this. You could do it, but you don't do it. I would have a list, and in those days, I would go down to something called the corner store. Most of you people that go shopping, don't you go to supermarkets? Folks, right? No, we go to supermarkets. And one of the reasons was you sort of implied it. Most people did not have a car in those days. So we dealt with the corner store. Now, you don't see corner stores in Raynham, but I'm familiar with Taunton. And you go down to Taunton, and you'll still see you drive down the street, you'll still see a store that's on what is a corner. The reason it was a corner was there was no parking for anyone. And so if you have a car a little bit in position, you would park they would give you 2 sides to park your vehicle. And it was easy to find a corner store. So, at your age now, your mother would give you a list to go shopping. She would give you no money. You did not handle money. But in those days, your age, kids pretty well ran their own life. There are some TV shows once in a while, or cartoons, that show you kids cooperating without what they call the adult world. And we would go to the store and we would give to the person in charge the list, put down the list, fill the list as best I could. But I'm going to tell you about shortages now. Because you're coming into shortages and depression, because people didn't have money to buy anything, so you have to worry about that. But during the war, there were people who were buying more than they could use and reselling it. So what would happen is there was a limit. There were 2 ways to limit you. One is to ration, which would be to say you could only have so many pounds of sugar per week, let's say. And so then you would have coupons. And you could cut off the coupons, or tear off the coupons, give it to the grocer, and he'd give you, say, 2 pounds of sugar. Now, the problem with that was, though, there was a shortage of sugar. And as a result of that, the person would have on the list 2 pounds of sugar. But if other than regular customers saw sugar, there would be a huge line out at his store, and they'd use up all of his sugar. So the way this was done, the grocer, the fellow that ran the store, would just, it was an eye contact, the eye, and he would reach down below. Down below would be a bag of 2 pounds of sugar. He would never say it, he would never show it, and down below he would put 2 pounds of sugar in a bag. You'd say, this is silly, what's he telling that story for? Because you got to understand, when there's certain things you like in life and you can't get them, the question is, how are you going to get them? And one of the ways we in those days got things, we got them by virtue of going to the same store. Show loyalty. Now, I hate to say, well, what about our store up there near Tracy's Corner, where the St. Anne's Church is? Are you familiar with that store? Where the post office is? Oh, yeah. Store's gone. Where did it go? It's part of a chain. They call it chain. It wasn't owned by one individual. Now you go to Coletti's, which is up the street, where they make sandwiches and all. I'm talking about 104 now. You go up to Coletti's, and that's owned by a family. It was purchased, the family that owns it now, they're not Coletti's, but they bought it from, say, Coletti's, and so it stays in the family. And staying in the family now, you've got a certain loyalty that they get to know you, if you know what I mean. I'll give you something that really was a shortage of, and it was called butter. There was a shortage of butter. Now, some of these things you don't even think about, right? You go to the fridge and you get the butter. And what would happen is, of course, there was a store called Kennedy's Butter Store. Not the Kennedys that maybe you're thinking of, not the political family. But there was a store called Kennedy. And the line was always outside that store waiting for some butter to arrive. And then they would give you maybe a quarter or a pound or a half a pound of butter. But they were nasty. And after the war was over, nobody went to that store. And so a very short time after World War II was over, which was back around, I'll say 1945, people stopped shopping there, so they put them out of business. I start this off, if you've had this before, you know, don't yell it out, because I've had classes here. My mother would say, Donnie, you know my name, that's it. Put the card up in the window. Different numbers. Somebody in here may know why I was going to put that card in the window. Anybody know why that card was in the window? Not all at once, please. Oh. And I would, but I had to put the card in the window. She had to tell me what. What number? 5 cents? Yes.
So did it go like 5, 10, 15, 20,
That's right.
25 cents?
And the number that was up would be the number that I'd want the person coming by. Now, the thing I want you to understand about houses are, we had locks. But we never used them. We had locks for the door, but we never used it. Now, I could ask you to try to guess why I would be here for a while, but I'll tell you right off why you didn't lock the door. You had nothing to steal. What did you have in that house that someone could want to break into that house? So the whole house was wide open, you didn't care. Now, coming down would be a man at first 2 or 3 years ago, would have been horse-drawn. But now, business got pretty good, and the gentleman had a truck. Down his truck, and he's looking to his left and right, and there in the McKinnon household is the number 5. Let's just say 5 for a second. And what has he got in his truck that Mrs. McKinnon sent Tony to the top? Did you get? Huh?
5 cents.
I'm sorry.
5 cents.
Well, that's 5 cents. Well, what did the man have in the truck? That was my question. No. Ice. He had ice. And he had canvas back. And he'd take his ice pick. You don't want to get in an argument with him, right? He'd take his ice pick and he'd chop 5 cents worth of ice. And he would take it, and of course, you didn't have to worry about knocking on the door or anything, because all the whole, remember I just told you, the whole house, oh, try not to knock her down, please, she's a valuable student, very valuable. She's worth a fortune, that young lady, a lot of money. And she walks very fast, faster than most of the youth. And the guy would come into the house, you wouldn't have to unlock the door, he'd just come into the house. Now the question is, the man's in your house with a bunch of ice. Well, what's he going to do? Put the ice down? Where does some of you know what this is? Because this young, yes.
He would probably put it in the fridge or the freezer.
Put it in, yes, put it in the term is the ice box. Because in those days, you had ice boxes, which means what did you not have?
Freezers and
You
refrigerators.
didn't have refrigerators. And you didn't have refrigerators for cool, and you didn't have refrigerators for cold. And there were 2 sections of the ice box. He would put it in one section, and as that ice melted, if you were lucky enough to have a little ice cream container, you could put the container on top of the ice. That would probably keep the ice cream for a short period of time. But I think you'd understand is there isn't much refrigeration in the 1940s when World War II started, because you didn't have refrigerators. Now, did rich people have refrigerators? Yes. Rich people had things that you don't have. Your chances are, in my world, in the early 40s, my father actually had a used car. Yeah, you had to be new to be bought, right? But there weren't many people we knew who bought a car. But my father was successful enough, so he had a used car. Of my friends that I hung around with, none of the families had cars. Most of them didn't have telephones. Now, and this was their method of communication. Remember I told you that about telephones? Yes.
My mom saw something about Facebook, and it was like a joke, and it showed a picture of bicycles in front of our house, and it said, "This is how we know when we."
It's a meeting place, right? Yeah. Because there was no Facebook. You know, and the telephones now, I'll tell you about the telephones. Some of you know it, so don't stop me now. You don't know. Let me tell you, then, if you get any questions afterwards. The telephones, now you have a name for them, don't you? You call them land phones. That was the telephone. And I'm trying to think now. They had at one time, when after your age, they could turn it around, a turnaround. I'm thinking now we press the buttons, don't we? Yes. It's tough to see you because you're in there.
I have one of those phones, and I'm able to like call people on it.
And you push the buttons?
Yeah.
Yeah, to do it.
No, actually, like the spin.
Oh, you spin. Okay.
The
Okay.
landline.
All right. You're connected. You got connections with the telephone company.
Yeah.
I heard that. I don't know that. Connections.
It's my grandmother's.
Yeah, your grandmother's got connections. Don't tell her I said so. I don't want her mad at me with those kind of connections. When I was your age, however, We didn't have push button. We didn't have turn around. What did we have? This gentleman's gonna give you, and you get the first prize of the day. Yes.
I have this little phone that we hooked up, and it's the spin dial one, but it was from Disney World, so it was a Pluto one, and the thing to hang up was you press down on the tongue, and the phone would hook up in his mouth, and then when you take it down, it looks like the part of the phone was chewed up.
Do you like that kind of phone? It's fun, huh? No, see, the phones that I had, now let me just, my phone that I had, my phone didn't have a spin dial, it didn't have the push button, so now, who's gonna raise their hand and tell me what that is? Just a minute, you get the, no, I don't give out the prizes, but if I ever did, you would get one.
So, was it one of those things that you would press something and then it would be a light, and how many flashes would be like?
That's a good answer. It's completely wrong. But very good answer. Very good answer.
Good answer.
Yeah, good answer.
A
One that
telegram?
I might.
A telegram?
I'm going to tell you the word, and then you're going to clarify with me. A telephone. Not all at once, please. Yes.
I know what phone you're talking about, but I just don't know what.
Yeah, it's so close you'd almost get the prize. But you're not going to get the prize.
I think, is it one of those phones that you put like one of the like little cup things up to your ear?
You could do that. Would work, but you could do that.
One of the other ones?
Yeah, no.
I
This guy, this is my go-to guy, in case you wonder. Yes.
So I don't know what the name was, but you take the cup, put it up to your ear, then you pick it up and talk into like this microphone.
That's how, you know, really, you guys at that age, you were back when I was at my age, and then, you're right, we would take a tin can, one part would be open. See, this is only giving you half an answer, right? But
You
know
would
the full
take
answer.
the can,
Yeah.
and then you put a string to another can, and you put it up to your
It's
ear.
like you
and
were
then
there.
talk
It's
to
like
it
you were there.
through the string.
It was kind of like a walkie-talkie, but in a different kind
But
of
it was
way.
a talkie-walkie instead of a walkie-talkie. Does that make any sense? No. This guy hasn't had a chance to answer.
Didn't you have the phone part and you had that little speaker that you speak to?
You could, that's what I was just getting to, the fact that tin can would have a string, tie a knot so that, and then it would go to another tin can. It could go to the people next door, and you could talk into that, and you people could talk to each other. Now, was that used regularly? No, that was a game more than anything else. But one thing I didn't get to, though, one thing I wanted to get to, was the fact that in those days, when you lifted up the telephone, there was nothing to turn, nothing to press. You had the telephone, and a person would come on, called a telephone operator. And in those companies in those days, the people that, and it was mostly girls now that were the telephone operators, they couldn't get married. They said, well, what do you mean you couldn't get, oh, they could get married, but if they get married, they lost their job. If you were a telephone operator, if you were a school teacher, you couldn't get married. And so they would, maybe some of them, I mean, you know, got married and people didn't know it, but as a rule, I had an aunt, and she was a school mom, and she taught all her life, and she lived the late years, never married, all by, that's the way it was, because you were supposed to dedicate your full time to your job. Well, the telephone operators had, and you might have seen this on TV sometime, they had all these cords that would go into different holes. When you were calling, you might have seen that. And if you were calling a certain number, they would click it into a certain outlet, and then that would tell you where that phone call was going. and they could manipulate it so the phone call could go through to somebody else. The good news was they were diligent workers and they were very good. The bad news is, once in a while, and people didn't care much for this, they could listen into your telephone. They could know pretty much your personal business. If you had a phone call to a doctor, well, that would be a good one. They would probably listen into that one. Find out about your ailments, find out about you, and all your personal things. Can I help you? You want to reach a little further and climb up on the table? I didn't know. I'm only trying to help now. So these telephones in those days, then, they were very efficient. But the problem is there were times when they could, and by the way, there were times when they could, telephone operators, hook up 4 and 5 people at the same time if you were a friend of them. See, because basically, picture yourself now, you're up into the 11th or 12th grade, and you get to a point where there's friends of yours that are telephone operators, and they could then make connections with people, and you could have group phone calls. It was not proper. That's what they could do. Well, okay, I'm going to get back to the store now. I'm back in the store, and I've got a 5-pound bag of sugar. The man puts it below the counter so that you can't see it being put in there. And you never dealt in money. Your mother or father would come up one day a week and pay the whole bill, whatever it happened to be. You call that today, you call it credit. They didn't call it anything, you just call it, they pay you on Saturday, is what they call it. And these stores now were so dedicated to the people that they knew everyone. And I'll give you the next thing on the beginning of television. I'm trying to begin. At your age, there would just not be television. And in World War II, now I'm going to bring up a little bit and introduce television to you. At a certain time, I'll say in the late 40s, early 50s, we began to have you can call it gun, huh? You would take this television set now, you had one, and you would be the person in your neighborhood who had enough money to buy a television set. Most of the day, the word is test pack. Most of the day, the set would just be there. Now, the funny thing about young people, I'm old, right? I'm not growing old anymore. I am old. So you'll get to a point where a television set has a size like this, you'd say, well, that's a small set, right? And then, but now you people, you have these little phones, don't you? And now you have these pictures that are smaller than the television set that I used to watch. And by the way, there was no color TV, all black and white TV. And the person in the neighborhood who had your television set would, what am I, running out of gas? What time am I done?
It was 2, but I like listening. We can go a couple more minutes.
Okay, I'll stop.
No, let's do what?
No,
I think we have about 5-10 more minutes, if that's good with you.
Yeah.
I'd love to have you for more longer, yeah?
No, but, yes.
Could the phone ring if you plug it in? Like you said they would have to plug when Henry wanted to go to their so you could speak to your friends.
Yeah.
Would the phone ring or no?
Oh, yes, it rang. It would ring. Yes.
Just like my grandmother was the first kid on her street to have a TV, so like every single Thursday, Friday, every single person in the neighborhood would like gather into her yard or
See,
and
you
they
saved
would
me
watch her
the,
TV.
you saved me the story. The fellow that had the television was the guy who owned the corner store because he made enough money to buy a television set. And what he would do is, and ask your grandmother about what night it was. I'm going to give you the night. Tuesday night. Tuesday night was the night that Uncle Milty was on. Milton Berle was his name. And he was just, And you know, you people watch television, you don't even give it credit for what they call the laugh track. It's laughing all the time on TV, right? That's a record. Do you know that? Well, Milton Berle had his mother out in the audience, and she would laugh, and that would be a clue to the people, it's time to laugh at Uncle Milton on Tuesday night. And that was a very big night. And if you had connections in the neighborhood, and once in a while we did, we would go to John O'Neill's house on Pleasant Street in Woburn, and we would go in that house, you don't knock it. Go in that house, sit in the living room, watching a test pattern, waiting for Uncle Milty to come on. And there were certain shows that were so important that they tell you what to do. Now I'll give you, I'll sum it up by saying there's a young lady named Oprah. And Oprah is considered very famous that she could tell you what to do and you begin to listen to her. In those days, there was a guy named Arthur Godfrey, and he was as famous at that time. And in those days, your tea was just, it was not in a tea bag. And he introduced the tea bag. The other thing he introduced, unfortunately, was buy cigarettes by the carton. And when you buy cigarettes by the carton, people were smoking more than ever, and Arthur Godfrey was the one to tell them that. Unfortunately for Arthur Godfrey, he did get cancer. He did realize it was cigarettes, and he tried to turn people around, and it was too late. Too late for Arthur, too late for turning people around. What I'm telling you is that in those days there were television people that had such a powerful influence on people, they could dictate what you would buy. And as I mentioned Oprah, because she has that kind of fame, Arthur Godfrey in those days had that kind of fame, that he could tell you what to buy. But this is the best group I've been to today. Oh, that would be, I don't want to waste your time with more stories. Thank you very much. You've been the best class I've had in the building. Right back to the door.
Hey guys,
Thank you.
you're doing a good job.